So this is our unit of work for a level 2 standard, looking at chemical sciences, specifically materials and properties. My name is Rebecca.
My name's Catherine.
My name is Rita.
My name's Demi.
My name's Rachel.
And my name's Tyler.
Our unit planner comprises of 6 lessons that address the science concept of chemical science, and more specifically, the topic of materials and properties. Throughout our lessons, we aim to successfully address and give students the opportunity to achieve various Victorian Science Curriculum achievement standards. For Year 2 students, these include students observe changes that can be large or small and happen quickly or slowly. They explore the properties of familiar objects and phenomena, identifying similarities and differences. Students describe the components of simple systems, combinations of materials, and show how objects and materials interact through direct manipulation. They describe the properties, behaviour, uses, and the effects of interacting with familiar materials and objects. Students pose and respond to questions about familiar objects and events and predict outcomes of investigations. They identify and describe the changes to objects, materials in their local environment, and how they suggest how the environment affects them.
The Victorian curriculum states that students will learn that objects are made of materials and have observable properties. Everyday materials can be physically changed or combined with other materials in a variety of ways for a particular purpose. Our unit allows children to explore what changes happen to a solid when they are introduced to heat. They are able to see the observable changes a material goes through when introduced to a new element. They understand simple cause and effect relationships from their observations and experiences, and link events and phenomena with their observable effects. They are introduced to materials and their properties and learn how to describe the properties of each material. This unit addresses how everyday materials are used in our surrounding environment and the sustainable choices we make when using these materials.
A number of teaching approaches were used throughout the unit plan. One of these is a constructivist approach to learning. This theory takes an active approach to learning, viewing learning as a process where students must construct their own understanding. The approach incorporates exploration and collaboration to engage learners in the content being explored, while working within the safe constraints of the teacher. This constructivist teaching recognises that all students come to the classroom with prior knowledge and individual differences, and aims to use these differences as a platform to delve deeper into concepts, making it more relevant and interesting to the learner. This approach is used within this sequence by incorporating hands-on tasks that encourage students to explore content, ask questions, think critically, and work with others. An example of this can be seen in the lesson that we'll soon show you, evident in the way that it incorporates hands-on exploration of different materials as they play with them to explore how these properties change when physical force is applied to them. By allowing students to physically play with these materials, they have the freedom to explore them in a way that's interesting to them. This approach to teaching science relates to the overall aims of the unit by building an understanding of the different physical properties of everyday materials. It does this by providing students with an environment where they can ask and answer questions freely.
Throughout the unit, socio-scientific issues have been incorporated in order to increase inclusivity and build a more relevant understanding of science that can be applied to real-world issues. Within this approach, science is explored in the context of real-world issues intertwined with values and differing opinions. It is important that issues selected for use within the classroom are relevant to the students, age-appropriate, and engaging. These factors are what make rich and thorough discussions possible. This approach in itself incorporates a constructivist approach to learning, evident in the way that it heavily relies on exploration, engaging with others' opinions, and using critical thinking skills. This approach can be seen through Lesson 6 of the unit plan. This lesson asks students to apply their understanding of chemical sciences to real-world scenarios, such as the use of different materials for shelters and resources based on the properties they have. By asking students to apply their acquired understanding to the real world, the content that they have explored becomes more relevant to them, as they see how science goes beyond the classroom and can be used to help others. This approach has been incorporated to increase student motivation for learning, as well as empower students to develop a deep and relevant understanding of scientific knowledge that allows them to actively participate in the world around them. This approach allows students to think critically and ask questions, leading to the development of many necessary scientific inquiry skills that will assist them in other areas of learning and outside the classroom.
The unit planner created makes connections to St. Mary's school priorities. Scientific literacy is fundamental in the successful teaching and learning of science. According to the Victorian Government, scientific literacy is defined as an individual's understanding of scientific concepts and processes and their ability to apply this knowledge to new and at times non-scientific situations. The lessons included in the unit planner aim to allow students to partake in literacy practices to develop the correct understanding of scientific concepts. Students are exposed to various activities that support this, including reading, brainstorming, sharing ideas, investigating, questions, discussions, and collaborative work. When referring to our science concept of chemical sciences, scientific skills are important as there are various preconceived notions and therefore teachers are challenged to refine understanding to be clearer for all students and give students appropriate reasoning for specific science concepts. Through this, students are challenged to critically think and can responsibly apply their understanding to outside classroom environments.
Students may have alternative conceptions about different materials and their properties. One of these conceptions is that materials in different states are different substances. For example, a solid being made into a liquid. This is explored in Lesson 4, which involves a crayon being changed from a solid to a liquid and the properties witnessed during this process, showing that the crayon can change properties without changing the material. Another conception that students might have is that if materials or substances can be put together, they can also be separated, which is explored in Lesson 5, where the students make lemonade and have to mix sugar into the water. This shows students that after the sugar is mixed in, the materials of sugar and water can no longer be separated as they form a new substance. It is important to acknowledge that students may have different conceptions of science concepts, in particular relating to materials and properties, as it may influence their thoughts when engaging with the lessons. Teachers should also be aware of any alternative conceptions and aim to address them within lessons in a way that is respectful and encourages students to develop critical thinking skills.
Throughout this unit, the teacher can engage in a range of assessments to gain an understanding about where each child is at in terms of their learning standards. A strategy that can be used for assessment for learning would be a pre-test that would determine what students already know about the topic being discussed. Within this unit, that would be about different materials and properties. As this unit contains a lot of collaborative learning, discussion skills and students' ability to work collaboratively will be assessed. To assess this, the teacher will be able to make observations and notes about students' ability to collaborate with one another, as well as being able to look at group work that has been completed by the students and their peers. As part of assessments of learning, the teacher can present students with post-tests. These can be in the forms of an exit pass to assess what students have understood from the lesson. This assessment tool is useful for teachers when planning the next lesson. It allows them to gain an understanding of what topics need to be revisited if students are showing signs that they have struggled to understand the concept, and allows them to see if they need to further develop some concepts that students found particularly easy when planning for future lessons. Among these tools and strategies, the teacher can always use rubrics to assess student ability to apply the explored concept to tasks, activities, and real-life situations, rather than just understanding how they would potentially work.
By the end of the first lesson, students are able to allocate the correct properties to the materials explored. Students are introduced to the purposes of specific materials in the environment. Students work collaboratively, individually, and in pairs using the Think, Pair, Share strategy to explore properties of materials. Assessment is based on observing discussions among peers, prior knowledge, and collaborative learning skills. The intended learning outcome aims to formulate basic knowledge and understanding on what the term properties entails, if materials can have more than one property, and how the materials given throughout the lessons are used in the environment or daily life.
By the end of Lesson 2, students are able to consolidate their understanding about grouping materials on the basis of their properties. They are able to understand what materials are needed to create an object, and objects can use more than one material. Students will create a poster that shows the selected material and an annotation that will highlight the materials used and their properties.
By the end of Lesson 3, students should be able to discuss the state an object is in. This can be in the form of a liquid or a solid. The main idea that will be explored within this lesson is the concept of melting and how it can potentially change the state something is in. In this lesson, students will use a hairdryer to melt down a crayon. They will observe how the crayon changes once it has been heated up. Discussion can be held about what students see and what is happening. The teacher can lead and guide this discussion and ask students a range of questions about why they think this is happening. The teacher can use observations and notes to assess student ability to engage in conversation about the topic. Towards the end of the lesson, they can come back to the melted crayons and see if its state has changed again once it has been cooled down.
By the end of Lesson 4, students should be able to describe how an object can change through actions such as bending, folding, twisting, pulling, stretching, and more. Students should be able to link their acquired understanding to examples found in the world outside the classroom. This lesson will be explored in more depth throughout the remainder of the video.
For Session 5 of the unit, students learn about how chemical change occurs when two or more ingredients are combined together. By the end of the lesson, the students will learn about how different materials react with each other and make a new substance with different properties. They learn that when combined, these substances such as sugar, lemon juice, and water cannot be separated. The everyday example of making lemonade provides the students with the opportunity to relate the abstract concept of chemical reactions to a real-life experience, which further develops their understanding of chemical change.
Lesson 6 aims to wrap up all the content learnt in the previous lessons and give students the opportunity to apply the knowledge learnt to more relevant applications. The learning intention is, by the end of the lesson, students will be able to identify different suitability of different materials for specific purposes. Students will rotate through different material stations of paper, plastic, Play-Doh, clay, recreating an everyday item such as a cup or a spoon with the different materials. Students will explore which materials suit the use of the item. Students can record their findings when experimenting with the different properties of the different materials and why certain materials were better than others. The intended learning outcome for this lesson is to have students be able to apply their knowledge of properties and be able to determine which materials would be more suitable depending on their properties for the specific object.
So we're going to start modelling our lesson for you now. We're going to be addressing the curriculum, saying that students can predict and compare how the shapes of objects made from different materials can be physically changed through actions such as bending, stretching, or twisting. For this lesson, I'm going to be one of the teachers.
I'm going to also co-teach with Rebecca.
I'm going to be a student.
I'm also going to be a student.
I'm also going to be a student as well.
And I'm also going to be a student too.
Awesome. So we have 2 teachers and 4 students. For this lesson that we're going to be demonstrating, we've also decided, considering the current times at the moment, to modify it for at-home learning. We just thought it'd be a really cool opportunity to expand our experience as teachers and being adjustable. And we've also broken it down into 2 parts, allowing students to fully engage with the lessons by doing at-home tasks and experiments, which you'll see shortly. Good morning. We're going to go on to lesson 4 of our unit on chemical sciences. So to start off, we're going to revise what we've looked at in the last couple of lessons through a Kahoot. So if everyone can go to kahoot.it and the game code will come up in a second. Perfect. So just put the pin in and your name, and then we're good to go. It's 2, just waiting for 2 more.
Sorry, teacher, I'm coming in now.
Perfect. Awesome. We're good to start. Question 1. Can materials have more than one property? Perfect. Awesome. So, can anyone give me an example of a property that has 2 or more, a material that has 2 or more properties?
Could it be like wood?
Yeah, wood's one. What properties does wood have?
It's hard and can you help me, teacher?
Yeah, can someone else think of another one?
Rough.
Rough, good one. Awesome. All right, let's go to the next question. Good job, Demi. Question 2. What is one property of glass that we can see? Perfect. So I have a question. How can glass be thick and thin?
Depends how it's cut.
Yeah, so sometimes the properties of a material actually depends on the way that it's made and what it's made into. So cool. All right, let's go to the next question. What happens when we heat a crayon? It melts. Awesome. Everyone got that one right. Perfect.
Good job, guys.
Next question. What is one thing we can use glass for? Awesome, all of the above. Can anyone think of another use that glass can be used for that's not here?
A cup?
A cup, yeah, perfect.
Also for like electronics.
Yeah, that's a big one. Do you have an example of a type of electronic?
Like your laptop.
Yeah,
and your
so it's got
phone.
glass. Yep, glass in the screen. That's a cool one. Awesome. Let's keep going. Can properties change even if the material doesn't? Perfect. Everyone got that one right. Awesome. Next question. And last one, true or false, materials make everyday objects? Perfect, everyone got that one right too. Awesome. Next, let's see who's the winner.
Who's number 1?
Yeah, Demi. Good job.
Yay.
Good job, Demi.
Perfect. All right, you guys can close your tabs for Kahoot and we'll get started looking at our learning intention.
Good job, guys, on the Kahoot. I like to see at what we've learned already. So before we dive into our activities, we are going to look at the learning intention and success criteria for today's lesson. So our learning intention for today, so that's our goal for today, is that we are learning to identify and describe how objects are made from different materials and can be physically changed through different actions. Now, so can anyone rephrase that for me?
Could you
Anyone?
Objects can change their shape. We're trying to figure out how objects change their shape and like how that changes the properties.
Yep, that's exactly right. Good job, Tyler. Is there anyone else that wants to add anything to it? That's okay. Okay, students, so now we're going to move on to the success criteria. Now remember, the success criteria is what we are looking to achieve by the end of the lesson. So they are the I can statements. So does anyone have any ideas of what our success criteria can be for today?
I can change the shape of different materials.
Perfect, that's a great one. How can materials be changed? What can we do to change materials? What are the key words that we can use in this statement?
We can stretch them.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Bend them.
Yep.
Fold.
Fold them.
Fold, yeah. So stretch, bend and fold are the main vocab words we're going to be looking at when looking at how we can change materials in the next activities. Another statement, can anyone think of one?
I have one, I think.
Yeah.
I can describe how objects change their properties.
Perfect. I love how you were referring back to the learning intention and making it an I can statement. Great job. And then just one more I can statement.
I have one.
Yep.
I can identify the properties of an object or material.
Yes, that is perfect. Great job, guys. So when we're doing the activities, just remember what we're trying to achieve by the end of the lesson.
All right, guys, so now we're going to get started with our activity. So we're going to look a little bit more at the types of actions that we can use to change the properties of an object. So one word that we're going to look at is bend. So we're going to all stand up. I'm going to stand up as well, because we're going to use our bodies to show this one. How can we use our bodies to show bend? What do you think you can do?
Bend to the
That's one. Say, look at everyone, give it a go. Bending to the side. Perfect. Is there any other ways you think we can show bend? Can we do this?
Touch our toes.
Yeah, you can bend down to your toes. Good one. Perfect. Good job, guys. So how about fold? How do you think we can show fold with our bodies?
going half.
Yep, bending down again, folding at the waist. Awesome. Maybe fold our arms. Yeah, there's a few ways we can show fold. And the last one we're going to work out is how can we show stretch with our bodies? Stretch really high, as high as you can. Perfect. Oh, and out to the side as well. Good job. There's a few different actions. So now we're going to use these actions to play a game. So we're going to play a game called bend, fold, stretch. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say one of these phrases. So I might say bend, which is to the side. I might say fold, reaching down to your toes, or stretch, which is reaching up to the sky. Whatever action I say, you guys have to copy it. So we're going to start off with a few practice rounds, but eventually I might start making it a little bit trickier. So I might go faster. I might try and say words that might say them more than once to try and trip you up. And you guys, your aim is to make sure you do the movement as quickly as you can, because if you muck up, then you're out. We're going to see if we can get to a winner. Does that sound okay? Any questions? Perfect. All right, let's get started. Perfect. Awesome. All right, so first word is bend. Do you remember what bend is? Bend to the side. Oh, you guys started. Oh, yeah, so bend is to the side. Perfect. Okay, it's just practice moves. What would you do if I said fold?
Touch your toes.
Yeah, now we're going down to our toes. Perfect. How about stretch? Perfect. Lots of moves stretching. Awesome. I'll go a bit faster. Bend. Ha. Good job. Stretch. And fold. And stretch. Stretch. Oh, there's a few people who moved. Awesome. We'll give it a few more goes. Bend. And fold. And stretch. I tried to trick you there, but no one fell for it. Good job, guys. Well done. Perfect. So thinking about these actions, are there any other ways that we can change the shapes of things? So we've looked at words like bend, stretch, fold. Is there any other words you can think?
What about when you like twist Play-Doh?
Twist, yeah, definitely. Is there a way that we can show twisting with our bodies too? Yeah, we can twist our waist, twist our arms. Perfect. Let's try and think of one more word. What's another way that we can change the property of something?
Can we plait it?
Yeah, we can plait it. So that's kind of like twisting it together. Yep, awesome. So good, guys. All right, we're going to keep going. We'll look into this in a little bit more depth.
Okay, class. So for the next part of this lesson, we are going to watch a quick video just to clarify any confusion students might have, and for those students that were away. When you're watching the video, I really want you guys to look at the clues there are and the kind of properties the video shows, because after watching the video, we are going to create a list as a class of the properties we have observed.
Why do we make greenhouses out of glass? Because glass is a transparent material. Sunlight passes through the glass so the plants inside can grow. We say transparency is a distinctive feature or property of glass. We can use the properties of a material to group it with other materials that share that property. Water and kitchen film are also classed as transparent materials. All materials have a number of properties. As well as being transparent, glass is also a hard material with a smooth texture. Wool, on the other hand, is soft and flexible. Sandpaper is also flexible but has a rough texture. What are the properties of the metal steel? It is strong, hard, and rigid. What about rubber? It is soft and bendy. So which material, steel or rubber, would you choose to build a bridge out of? Steel, of course. You wouldn't want to build a bridge out of rubber. The properties of a material will determine how it is used. So umbrellas are made out of a waterproof material like nylon, while towels are made out of porous materials that absorb water. And greenhouses are made out of transparent glass.
Okay, class, so now that we've watched the video and we have a bit more of understanding about properties of materials, we're going to create a list. So can anyone share some words or vocab that they saw that relates to properties or identifies a property?
I have one.
Yep, Demi?
See.
Perfect. Anyone else?
Rough.
Rough is a great one. And what materials have the property of rough? What materials are rough?
Maybe like rocks.
Perfect. That's a great example. Good job. Another one, please.
I have one, teacher. Soft?
Yep. Perfect. Soft. And just to wrap it up, one more property. Let's smash it out with a great one.
I got one.
Yes, Demi?
See-through.
Perfect. That's a great one.
Glasses.
Thank you, guys.
Cool. Awesome. So we're going to keep looking at some of these different materials. So before we get started with that, I need you guys to do a prediction. Do you think an object can change its properties?
Yes.
Any ideas? Yes. What makes you say yes?
Because like sometimes when I have an ice cream, it's like hard and then it goes soft when it melts.
That's a really good example. Awesome. Cool. Anyone else agree with this? Yep. I see lots of nodding. Does anyone disagree? Does anyone think a material can't change its properties? No, we all agree?
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, we're going to have a go at testing our prediction now. So I've got a bunch of different materials and items in front of me. I'm going to start with this one. Can anyone tell me what this is?
Paper?
We don't often. Pardon?
Is it paper?
Not quite paper. This is a bit of a tricky one that I'm going to start with. I'll give you a clue. It's found in clothing sometimes.
Is it elastic?
Elastic, yeah. So this is the stuff that we find like in the waist of our pants sometimes and in shirts and stuff too. So looking at this, it's made out of a bit of a fabric from what I can feel. I can also tell you it's really rough on the top because it's got lots of bumps. What else can I tell you about this? It's quite small, it's bendy. Do you think I can change the properties of this by doing something to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Demi, I saw you
fold
nodding.
it.
I can fold it, yeah. So when I fold it, it changes shape. It gets smaller. What else can I do? Maybe I know I can stretch it.
Yeah, you
When
can
I stretch it, it also changes its shape and it becomes a bit more rough too. Yeah, definitely. So this is a cool one. So I hope you guys saw what I was doing there. I can feel different properties on this material, and then when I change it, I can see that the properties change as well. Just like how it is smaller here, but when I stretch it, it gets bigger, changes in shape. So I'm going to ask you guys to help me out now as well. I have, which one will I choose? I've got some blue tack here. I'm sure all of you have played with blue tack before. Can someone tell me a few properties that blue tack has?
It's hard.
smooth.
It's hard. Yep, do we all agree with that? We use hard to describe it?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. It's also a bit squishy. Depends how dried up it is. What's some other words that we can use to describe the blue tack properties?
It's smooth.
Smooth, yeah, definitely smooth. What else?
It's a bit stretchy.
It is stretchy. So you've actually gone to the next part. We can stretch it to change it. What happens when I stretch it? How do the properties change?
It's longer.
Sorry, did someone say something?
Gets longer.
It's longer, it changes in shape. It also gets a bit smoother as well. What's another way I can change the properties of this blue tack?
You can roll it up into a ball.
I can roll it, yep, which is kind of, it's a bit hard, this blue tack, but yep, I can roll it into a ball. I can also fold it, because I can fold it in half. I can twist it. There'll be lots of different things.
With blue tack on the windows and it gets hot, it melts. Sometimes it gets.
It does melt. Yeah, so good. And we're going to be looking more at that in our next lesson as well. So good, guys. So now we've given this a go with a couple of different materials. So now it's your turn. So in a second, we're going to split into some breakout rooms on Zoom. So different groups with 2 people in each group, and your job is to find a few materials that you can change the properties of. And together you're going to do what I did, so talk about the properties before it's changed and then the properties after it's changed. And it might be a really good idea to record your answers somehow as well, because then we'll all come back into a big group and share some of the things that we found out. So any questions about this? No questions? All good. So I'm going to split you into breakup. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Do we have to find our own materials in our house?
Yeah, so I found mine in just a couple of minutes. It wasn't too difficult. So maybe if you could all try and find at least 2 materials, that way your group will have 4 to go through together. Perfect. Awesome. Any other questions? No, all good. We'll split up into breakout rooms now. All right, guys, you've already had a couple of minutes. I'm just joining in to see how you were going. What items have you found?
Well, I found
You go,
this bottle and a hair tie.
So good. What properties did you see that they had?
Well, it's smooth, but it's also rough because it's got this part here.
That's
and
cool.
it's dark because of the edge.
Awesome. So good. How about you, Taylor? What did you? Oh, sorry. Yeah. What have you got?
I found a ruler, and it's sort of bendy, but it would snap if I bent it. Also see-through, and
See-through.
it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
And then I also have a tissue, which is soft and light, like it's not heavy, and like you can scrunch it up and make it different.
So good. You guys look like you've got heaps of different things. Awesome. Good job.
Okay, welcome back, class. So we're going to do our breakout room reflections. So remember, we were asked to find 2 materials in the household and kind of see if their properties can be changed and so on. So let's begin with Tyler. Tyler, what were the materials that you found?
I found a tissue.
Yep.
And its properties are that it's light and it's soft, and I could change it by like scrunching it up because it becomes smaller.
Yep.
Like more, sort of more rough now because of all the folds.
Yep. Was there anything else, any other way you can change the material
We can
of the tissue?
Fold
it. Yep.
Stretch it.
How about ripping it? Does that change? Yep. So you're able to rip the tissue. Is that right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Were there any materials that you found in your household that didn't change, or that any materials that you came across that you found difficult?
I found a ruler.
Trying to figure out if they change. A ruler, yep.
A little bit, but if I bent
Yep.
it would break.
Yeah.
I have a rock as well.
Yeah.
But I found out that it's not really easy to change the properties of a rock because I'm trying to like break it in half, but it won't. But I think if I smashed it on the ground, that it would break into pieces and then its properties might change.
Yeah. Can you describe the rock? Like, how does it feel when you hold it? Like the observable features.
It's pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it smooth or is it rough?
It's smooth, this one.
Yeah. Perfect. So you're saying that if we threw the rock smashed on the floor, it could potentially break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go
so that's
into
right.
like smaller pieces.
Yeah. And that would be changing the property. I just think it probably depends on how strong and how much pressure you use to really smash the rock. Perfect. Thank you. Let's go on to Demi.
I found my hair tie or scrunchie, and it's pretty soft and it feels very thin. I can change it by stretching it, or I could even twist it, and I could fold it as well.
Perfect. Do you remember what material teacher Rebecca showed before that would probably play a role in the scrunchie and being able to twist it and stuff like that?
Maybe the elastic.
Yeah, perfect. That's right. Yeah, so the scrunchie probably has an elastic inside, which makes it able to change, like twist and fold and all that kind of stuff. Was there any other objects that you found in your household that probably couldn't change?
I found a box and I couldn't really change the box.
Yep. What does it feel like? Is it hard? Is it?
It feels pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Pretty hard, but smooth.
Yeah. Great job. Thank you. And let's move on to Catherine. How did you go, Catherine?
This bottle.
Yep.
And so it's smooth, but it's also rough because it has this bit up top.
Yeah,
and I can twist it.
Yep.
There's things in there at the moment, and I can bend it if I want to, but I'm not going to. And then it's got this part here that can bend as well.
The lid, yep. That's like bending, and that's kind of like folding the lid back in as well. Yeah. Were there any materials you saw or found in your house that couldn't be changed?
Well, my water bottle. I can't really change. It's a bit hard to change this.
Yeah. And why do you think so?
Well, because it's, I don't know. I just can't change it. Like, I can't bend it.
Yeah, it's probably a thicker plastic, so that's probably a bit more difficult to bend. Well, perfect. Thank you guys for your participation, and we are going to move on to the next task.
All right, so we're going to go on with our online, our at-home task now. So this is 2 tasks today. You've got to have these, or at least one of these, completed by our next science lesson. Hopefully you'll have time to do both though. So we'll just go through them together at the moment. So your first task is, it says, do a treasure hunt around your house. Find items that can change their properties when we do something to them. Draw 4 of these in the spare boxes below. So this is pretty much what we were doing before in our breakout room. So finding different materials, working out how we can change their properties, and drawing the boxes below. If you'd like to, you can even make this even more detailed and make these drawings labeled as well to add a bit more detail. Then once you've done that, there's a couple of questions to answer there. So the first one says, can you think of any other items that you couldn't find in your house that can change in properties when we apply different actions? And the next question is, choosing one of these items, explain what action we can use to change this object and describe what new properties that object would have. Awesome. So then the next task that you might like to do is making some slime. So this, there's a recipe for you there, but this one has to be done with your parents. It's a bit messy. So you need to have an adult there helping you with that one. So once you've followed those instructions and made the slime, play with it for a little while, and then there's some questions for you to answer. You can answer these questions in whatever way you like. You can write them in a diagram, you can write your answers, or you can create a short video as well. So I'll let you read through those questions as well. Awesome. So that's it for this first half of our lesson. We're going to head off now. And I'll see you soon with these tasks completed. See you guys.
Welcome back, guys, to completing the at-home task. So we're just going to do a quick reflection on things we found around the house and just sharing our ideas with the class just to increase our knowledge on properties and materials. So looking at task 1, if you all have your homework tasks up, we'll go through them. So you were asked to do a treasure hunt and find items around the house that can change their properties when you apply an action to them. So we're going to share our ideas with that. Catherine, what did you find?
I found my mum's keys and she has this on it, so I can bend it.
Perfect.
Stretch it. And it'll break. There you go.
Yeah, perfect. That's a really good material that you found. Tyler, what did you find?
I found a sticky note, and you can fold it in half. You can bend it like that. So.
Perfect. Rachel?
I found a sock.
Interesting.
And I found out that I can actually stretch it like this.
Yeah.
I can also fold it.
Yeah.
And I can twist it too, like this, which is pretty
Great
cool.
job. So you've applied
I can do a lot of things.
Yeah, who would have thought you could do a lot of things to a sock?
I
know. And just going to go to Demi now.
I found a sunglass case.
Yeah.
I can't stretch it, but I can fold it. And I can also twist it.
Perfect. That's great. I'm really glad to see that you guys are really understanding this and getting the hang of it. Great job. So I'm not going to spend too much time on task 1 because it seems like you all got it down packed.
Who had fun making the UoW slime, guys?
Me.
So good. So we'll go through the questions of that one. So first, what properties of the UoW slime could you observe?
Well, I found out that when you like hold it and you like smush it together, it becomes like really hard. And like
yeah, so good. Yeah, so when you apply more force.
Yeah.
It was kind of like sticky as well.
Yeah, very sticky. When you put your hands in slowly, it like sticks all over you. Definitely. What else? What other properties could we find?
Well, I found that if you just held it there on your hand, it just became very slimy, very watery.
Yeah, it's running. Yeah, awesome. So good. So we already kind of talked about this, but what happens to it when you hit it?
It becomes like harder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
it becomes
hard.
hard. Yeah, so that's something that we can do that changes the property of the slime. We can hit it or apply lots of force to it. And what were the properties of the slime when you hit it? How was it different? We kind of mentioned this already, but one of the words that I use it was a lot harder. So before, when you put your fingers in, it just mushed the whole way through and it was really soft and squishy. But when you apply more force to it, it's hard, it's more solid. Is there anything else that you guys observed?
It was still pretty smooth.
Yeah, it was still smooth. Yeah, so there was a few similarities there as well. Awesome. So good.
I think it turned it from like a liquid to a solid.
Yeah. So when you apply more force, it becomes more of a solid. Yeah, definitely. Are there any other ways or actions that we could do that changed the properties of UoW? So this time we can think about other words that we've used to change objects throughout the lesson.
We could try and stretch it.
Yeah, you can stretch it a little bit. Yeah. Is there any other words that we can use?
And twist it.
Twist it. Yeah, you can twist it too. Awesome. So can you think of any other objects like UoW that change their properties when we do something to it?
Like we did in the other lesson with the crayons, like when we heated it up, they melted. So
yeah, so that also became a solid liquid. Yep, so good. And this is a bit of a tricky question. It's a bit of an extension one. Why do you think the UoW gets hard when we hit it? This is a really tricky one.
Maybe because you like squishing it all together so it becomes harder.
Yeah, so all of the tiny little particles that make it up, when it's just in its normal state, they're further apart so they can flow around freely. But when we squish it in together, they get nice and tight, which makes it feel more solid. Perfect. That was such a good guess. Oh, yeah, good prediction. Awesome. So I think we're all done. So well done, guys, for completing your unit for lesson 4 for the unit. So if you haven't already, please submit your at-home tasks, because we'll be going through them and having a look at your work. Good job.
Great job, guys.
So now that the students have had a chance to finish off the lesson and do the at-home tasks, we're going to be using the rubric to mark their engagement with the task and with the lesson as a whole. We'll go through the rubric. This is Tyler's work that we're marking. The first part of the rubric says, I have the ability to identify an object's properties. Through looking at her work here, for each example that she was able to find in task 1, she came up with about 2 or 3 properties. She was able to do a few more in the lesson, so we're going to give her in between an at standard and high standard. She was able to do quite a few, but there were just a couple of little errors in there. Next part, which says have an understanding of actions that can be applied to change a material's properties. For this one here in the second part, she was able to name 3, and the last question there. Throughout the lesson, she named a couple more, but they were very similar to the ones that she's already written, so we're going to give her an at standard because she was able to do in between 4 or 5. The next one is the ability to reason how a material's property can change, so with the focus on verbal reasoning. In her last question here, not only was she able to identify the action that changed it, but also how it changed it. She described those changes. So we're going to give her above standard there, because it was a really great detail and accuracy. Moving on to scientific skills. Next one is the ability to use evidence to predict and apply information to non-tangible ideas. Through her engagement with the homework task, she was only able to identify 1, as seen in this question here. Throughout the lesson, I don't remember seeing her any evidence of that either, so I might go through with some conferencing with her to check her understanding, but for the moment we're going to go below standard because she just didn't show that she could do that in more than that one example. Following that says the ability to use verbal reasoning to respond to questions asked. She has really great verbal reasoning skills. She demonstrated that she could do that really well throughout the lesson, so we're going to give her above standard there too. Moving on to engagement. Engagement with the lesson we'll focus on now. Throughout the lesson, she was very involved. She asked questions. There was a few areas where she could improve on, maybe responding to other people's questions and ideas. So we're going to give her an at standard. Finally, engagement with the at-home tasks. While we're only just marking this first one here, she actually did do both tasks. And with a really high degree of detail, you can see that she put a lot of effort into this for a year 2 Kim. So we're going to give her an above standard there. So we're going to move on to marking one of the at-home tasks 2 now. This one was completed by Rita. We have the rubric here. So the first area on the rubric is the ability to identify an object's properties. In her task, in question 1, she was asked to answer the question, how many properties of oobleck slime can she observe after she made it? She was able to identify 4 here. I also note she was able to identify a couple more throughout the lesson, so I'm going to give her an above standard for this area of the curriculum. Following that, the next part of the rubric says, understand the actions that can be applied to change a material's properties. In question 4 here, she was asked to identify, are there any other ways that we can change the properties of the oobleck? She was able to identify 4 ways here. I didn't hear her contribute too much more other than the 4 that she identified in the lesson, so I'm going to give her at standard here for being able to identify 4 to 5 ways that a material can change their property. Following this, the rubric says the ability to reason how a material can change its property. For this one, I'm going to give her at standard as well, because she gave a few examples throughout the lesson and in her homework task 2 as well, which can be seen amongst all of the questions. After that, we move on to scientific skills. Next part of the rubric says that I have the ability to use evidence to predict and apply information to non-tangible ideas. She was able to do this throughout the lesson, naming examples of different materials and their properties, how they can be changed even when she couldn't see it. So we can do at standard here, because there were a couple of mistakes in the things she was saying, or areas where she could have used a bit more detail. The next part of the rubric says she has the ability to use verbal and visual reasoning to respond to questions asked. We're going to give her above standard for this one because she's put a lot of work and detail into her homework task. As we can see, there's a lot of detail in this for the standard for grade 2 child. And she also used a lot of detail whenever she was communicating in the lesson as well. Going on to the engagement. Her level of engagement with the lesson, we're going to give her at standard. She participated in many different ideas and responded to other people's ideas too. For engagement with the homework tasks, she didn't complete both tasks, she only did the UoW. So we're going to go somewhat participated with tasks. They were required to do both. So the below standard is probably the most appropriate here.
By modelling these lessons, we hope to have given you some insight into how all of our lessons in our unit plan address our aims to successfully give students the opportunity to achieve various achievement standards of the Victoria curriculum.
There was the use of different teaching strategies and instruction, such as collaborative work, modelling, investigating with a high emphasis on questioning for the development of critical thinking skills.
Students were able to come to their own conclusions and further discuss this with their peers to make their learning relevant and meaningful. This occurs in all the lessons of our unit planner.